It was almost midnight when Emily arrived at the old village hotel. The hotel was called the Blackwood Inn. It stood at the end of a lonely road, surrounded by tall, dark trees. There were no other houses nearby, and the nearest town was almost 10 miles away. Emily had been driving for hours through the rain. She was tired. She just wanted a warm room and a few hours of sleep. When she entered the hotel, an old man was sitting behind the reception desk. He looked at her silently. "Do you have a room?" Emily asked. The old man slowly nodded. "Yes, room 13. Emily smiled nervously. 13. That's okay." The old man handed her an old brass key. But before she walked away, he grabbed her hand. "Listen carefully," he whispered. "Whatever you hear tonight, do not open the door." Emily looked at him strangely. "What do you mean?" The old man released her hand. "Room 13 has been empty for 20 years. Emily stared at him. "Then why are you giving it to me?" The old man didn't answer. He simply looked toward the dark hallway. Emily took the key. She walked upstairs. The hallway was long and narrow. Old paintings covered the walls. Every few seconds, lightning flashed through the windows, making the paintings look as if their faces were moving. Finally, Emily found room 13. She unlocked the door. The room was surprisingly clean. There was an old bed, a wooden table, a mirror, and a small window facing the forest. Emily put her bag down. She checked her phone. No signal. "Perfect," she whispered. She changed her clothes and climbed into bed. For a while, everything was quiet. Then, knock. Emily opened her eyes. She looked at the door. Nothing. She waited. Knock, knock. Someone was standing outside. Emily remembered the old man's warning. "Do not open the door." She stayed in bed. "Is someone there?" she asked. No answer. Then, a little girl's voice came from the other side. "Please help me." Emily froze. The voice sounded terrified. "Please open the door." Emily slowly sat up. "Are you okay?" The little girl began crying. "I'm scared." Emily walked toward the door. Her hand reached for the handle. Then she stopped. The old man's warning came back to her mind. "Whatever you hear tonight, do not open the door." Emily stepped backward. "I can't open the door," she whispered. The crying suddenly stopped. Silence filled the hallway. Emily returned to her bed. She tried to sleep, but a few minutes later, she heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Step, step, step. They stopped directly outside her room. Emily held her breath. Then she heard a whisper. "Emily." Her eyes widened. The voice was calling her name. She had never told anyone at the hotel her name. "Emily." The voice became louder. She pulled the blanket over her head. Then something strange happened. The footsteps moved away. Emily waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Finally, she looked out from under the blanket. The room was empty. But then she noticed something. The mirror. There was a little girl standing behind her. Emily turned around. Nobody was there. She looked at the mirror again. The girl was still there. She had long black hair, covering most of her face. Her white dress was covered in dirt. Emily couldn't move. The girl slowly raised one finger and pointed toward the door. Emily turned. The door was slightly open. She knew she had locked it. Emily slowly walked toward it. Then she heard the little girl whisper from the mirror. "Don't let him come inside." Emily stopped. "Who?" The girl's head slowly lifted. Her face was pale. Her eyes were completely black. She whispered, "Yourself." Emily's heart stopped. Behind her, someone laughed. She turned around. The room was empty, but the mirror had changed. The little girl was gone. Instead, Emily saw herself standing inside the mirror. Her reflection was smiling. Emily wasn't smiling. The reflection raised its hand. Then it slowly knocked on the glass. Knock, knock, knock. Emily stepped backward. The reflection smiled wider. Then it whispered, "Let me out." Emily ran toward the door. But before she could reach it, the lights went out. Complete darkness. She heard breathing behind her. Slow, deep, and very close. Emily didn't turn around. She closed her eyes. Then a voice whispered directly into her ear. "You opened the door." Emily screamed. She turned around. Nobody was there. Suddenly, the lights came back on. The door was wide open. Emily ran into the hallway. Help! She rushed downstairs. But the reception desk was empty. The old man was gone. She ran outside into the rain. Her car was still there. She unlocked it and drove away as fast as she could. She didn't stop until she reached the nearest town. The next morning, Emily went to the police station. She told the officers everything. One officer looked confused. "The Blackwood Inn?" "Yeah." He exchanged a glance with another officer. "That hotel burned down 20 years ago." Emily stared at him. "No, I stayed there last night." The officer shook his head. "There hasn't been a hotel there for 20 years. Emily pulled out the brass key. "I have proof." The officer looked at it. His face suddenly turned pale. The key had a small metal tag attached to it. "Room 13. The officer whispered. "Where did you get this?" Emily explained everything. The officer remained silent for a moment. Then he opened an old newspaper. There was a photograph of the Blackwood Inn. And standing outside the hotel was the same old man Emily had met the night before. The headline read, "Hotel owner dies in fire along with his daughter." Emily stared at the photograph. The little girl in the picture was wearing a white dress, the same dress she had seen in the mirror. Then Emily noticed something else. The date on the newspaper was exactly 20 years ago. That night, Emily returned home. She locked every door. She closed every window. She checked the hallway. Everything was quiet. She finally went to bed. At 2:13 a.m., her phone rang. Emily opened her eyes. The screen showed an unknown number. She answered. There was silence. Then she heard a little girl's voice. "Emily." She stopped breathing. The girl whispered, "You forgot something at the hotel." Emily looked toward her bedroom door. There was a small brass key lying on the floor. The same key. Room 13. Then came 3 soft knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Emily slowly looked at the bedroom door. A shadow appeared underneath it. A small shadow, like a little girl standing on the other side. Then the voice whispered, "Can I come in now?" Emily screamed, and the lights went out. The next morning, her house was empty. The police found no sign of Emily. Only one thing was left behind. A small brass key, sitting on her pillow. And underneath it was a piece of paper, written in handwriting that wasn't Emily's, were 4 words. "Room 14 is waiting."